Well, welcome back to another week video. This has been an interesting week video because we had plans to go to Capernaum, and it was closed. I called on the phone, but they said they were open. But then when we got there,
the Franciscans are
the ones in charge there, and they said that it's closed at least for another month. So we decided maybe we'd go to Beatitudes. And then we went, and they were also by the Franciscans, so they were also closed at least for another month.
And then we tried to do the Jesus boat.
Yeah, the Jesus boat that they found, that was also closed. So we just looked up on the internet and tried to find something that was good
and interesting for you.
Yeah, something you guys would like to see. And we found this place, Hamat, Tiberias. Hamat, Tiberias is Tiberias Hot Springs. Tiberias is Tiberius in Hebrew, and Hamat is Hot Springs in Hebrew. So there's quite a few interesting things here. First of all, as you can see when we walk around and show around, most of the people that come here are not really looking at the ruins in the ancient synagogue that's here, and but they're actually sitting around in the hot springs.
And the hot spring. And I noticed that some of the hot springs says it's 35 degrees. Some said 40, and you can smell the sulfur. And they all said it's 100 different minerals. And the thing about this was during the time of Solomon, people were wanting something and some place to go for healing. And of course, you have the Dead Sea, and then they have this here, the hot spring.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
It's that far back, these ruins.
Yeah, it's back from King Solomon. We know here by just studying the little bit we've done since we've been here. And also another thing is Tiberius, the Sea of Galilee right now, is 70 centimeters from being absolutely full, which is very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
A good miracle.
And also another thing, talking about, you brought up the Dead Sea. You know, we all know Dead Sea is the lowest place on the planet, on Earth, right? But Tiberias is also the lowest freshwater lake in the world at 600 meters below sea level.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, most people don't know that. And they had, years ago, when I say years ago, I mean really a long time ago, they had a bad earthquake here. And they predicted that in the future they should have another one. I guess we can think of like Californians.
Well, we know the predictions of a big earthquake in Israel. You know, it split Jerusalem in half.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So what we know in the Word of God, I mean, an earthquake as big as what we know is coming would affect everywhere, the whole country. Sure.
So anyway, but they have I think Joel showed you when he did his big walk around, the area where they have some beautiful mosaic floors that are still in good shape. And you have the Roman baths here. It's time for the Romans. The Sanhedrins came here. And so it's got a lot of history. This place.
Yeah, and some of these ancient mosaics have some really interesting inscriptions, like the one that they found. I'm just reading it straight from our tour guide here. The one that we found from Aramaic, it was translated, "May peace be upon anyone who has offered charity in this holy place, and anyone who will offer charity, may he be blessed." Yeah, that's
very profound.
Yeah. Another one was, "May he be remembered for good and for blessing."
But it's amazing as you walk around here. You see the different little hot springs, and you see some where kids are in it. You see some where the adults are in it, and you see them out eating, picnicking, drinking their coffee or tea or their juice. So it's really nice. And across the street is the big fancy hot springs where they have the big spa.
Yeah. But also as you see this place is right on the road, which is right on the shoreline of the Sea of Galilee. And we've probably been by here, I don't know how many times. I never knew this place even existed.
I know, me neither. I knew the hot springs across the road, but I never thought about this one.
Yeah, like I said, this is one of the blessings of doing this channel for you guys is learning a lot about the country that I live in.
Yeah, especially all the ancient ruins that you have here that you didn't realize was around.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you can see, the synagogue where all the beautiful mosaics are, there was 3 different synagogues that was built here over the time. The first synagogue was founded in around 230 BC on the remains of the earlier public building. A small piece of mosaic survived from this synagogue, which is apparently destroyed in the 3rd century BC. It can even be seen on the southern edge of the central mosaics. The second synagogue existed in the 3rd and 4th century BC and left behind a magnificent mosaic floor, the earliest such floor ever found in Israel. It's the first one ever. It's the earliest it's ever that we could see mosaics in the whole nation of Israel. The mosaics is divided into 3 panels. The northern panel depicts 2 lions. The center is a spectacular wheel of the zodiac surrounding the images of Helios, the sun god. And in the southern panel, the Holy Ark is depicted, along with Jewish symbols, the menorah. So as Mama was talking about, King Solomon had used this place for healing powers. One thing also is no real settlement has ever really been built here. No real big settlement of people were actually here at the Hamat after the early Arab period, the 8th century BC. But the baths that were built in 1780 has been wonderfully reconstructed, and you can come and visit them anytime you want. Like you see, we see all the people out here in the middle of the wintertime laying out bathing wear in hot springs.
End of the video, it looks like.
Yep, well, this wasn't the video we planned and all the research and studying I did to get a video I wanted to put out for you. But Corona's still here, I guess, and things are still on lockdown, and things are still closed. So this is at least we was able to put something together, give you a little piece of Israel, and I hope it blessed you. It was a blessing to be able to give to you.
Yeah, it was nice to be able to come up here and do this. I'm sad too that we didn't get to do the main video you wanted, but they need to get their information straight when they say it's open, but then another part of it says no.
Yeah, we called beforehand to see if it was open, and
it's like a 2 or more hour
5 hour round trip.
Yeah, so at least we found something, and I hope it was interesting. But at least it's ancient.
Yep, and so at least it's Israel.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, God bless. Until next week.
Bye bye.
TGR News, broadcasting from the State of Israel.
Welcome back to TGR News.
Shalom, shalom from Israel.
Well, it's Purim.
Purim, yeah.
Yeah, happy Purim.
Yeah, you know, that's, it's once again, we got a wicked Hana in Iran, or Persia, who wants to kill all the Jews. So it's appropriate to celebrate Purim special. You know, do you ever wonder why that? I'm a Jewish guy, of course. I think I don't have to tell you that, but I've often wondered why do the kids have to dress up like this? This isn't Halloween. Believe me, it's not like people. There's a lot of Gentiles believe Hanukkah is a Jewish Christmas. So now they're bringing it all the way over here, but that has nothing to do with it. It has to do with. That's just a celebration because it's we've been delivered. We're going to live. We're going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Wicked Hana is hanging over there.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, him and Mordecai, right?
Yeah. Well, this week, like everywhere, pretty much in the northern hemisphere, there was a big storm here, snowstorm and everything else. And during the time of the storm, there was apparently a Greek vessel that left Egypt, and it poured out tons of crude oil. There was a whale, a 17-meter whale, dead on the beaches, and tons of birds and small turtles and everything else. The Israeli coastline is 195 kilometers long, and 170 kilometers is now completely covered with this crude oil, and it's insane.
Yeah. It's not just oil; it's like tar.
Yeah.
it's like balls of tar, tiny balls and big balls too. It's just everywhere. There's just it's unbelievable. There's been volunteers all over Israel out cleaning the beaches.
Cleaning the beaches, yeah. Horrible thing. Well, finally, the country started opening up after all these lockdowns that we've been having all this time. But some of the business owners, there's not many with this new green passport, where only if you're vaccinated you can do things. I think it's the movie houses, the gyms, and public swimming pools. Those are the only three things that you have to have the green passport for. But the people that have those businesses have stated that we're not going to stop someone to come in if they don't have a green passport.
Yeah, well, what I can't understand why they keep the restaurants and cafes closed. You know, they can move tables apart from each other.
And outside. And
it's outside. I don't understand that at all. But it's really doing a lot of damage to the cities.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is.
Well, this year, it's an insane number. Now, when I say these numbers here in Israel, you got to remember, our entire population is about 9 million, including the Muslims now. And but so the over 600,000 businesses went bankrupt this year during Corona.
And it ain't over.
That is crazy. No, it ain't over.
No, it ain't over. And we're talking. They're still talking about more lockdowns. I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, right now we're in a curfew lockdown. Started last night through Purim, from 8:30 at night till 5 o'clock in the morning. We can't leave the houses.
Yeah, and that might not sound like a lot from 8 at night until 5 in the morning, but during Purim, it's a big thing for Israelis and Jewish people around the world to celebrate Purim.
Absolutely, it's important.
And when do you celebrate it? You celebrate it in the evenings and parties and the kids are dressed up.
We're talking about the kids. The 40% of the students are still not back in school, even though we're out of lockdown.
Yeah. Well, it's sad. I'm gonna tell you what I'm thinking also about this Iran and Syria. It just seems to me like the world is actually pushing Israel into a war with Iran. Here we know that they've escalated their nuclear. Their centrifuges are running full blast. Now they got these new missiles that I think it's the Ta-Ibar, they call it. It's a ballistic missile, 3-stage ballistic missile, which means it don't leave a large footprint. They call it. They just move it out on the thing and bang, and it's gone. So it's very hard to defend against. And it'll reach America very easy. And also, they've got several the Shahad 3 missiles and things that could. And do they have the big question is no one wants to ask it because nobody wants to admit that it's possible. Do they already have a nuclear weapon?
Yes.
And if they didn't make one, I'm sure they could have bought one. I'm sure they could find a seller or two from the resolved USSR who would have been happy to sell them some because the highest bidder was buying them back in those days. So Israel's in a real bind. Israel, when you have somebody who is on a mad rush to get nukes into the air over your head, and they say they want to kill you and wipe you off the map, and they want to kill every Jew on earth. That does sound like Wicked Hana here in Purim, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Oh, it's bad news. So I think it's very important for the world to wake up.
It's bad. Well, last night Bibi did an interview on the nightly news, and he talked about a few things. First things he talked about was about how he was did so good in his opinion, of course, with the Corona crisis and everything, and all the things that he was able to do. But what a lot of it was about was how the economy in Israel is one of the best in the Western world, and the shekel is the strongest it's been in 12 years. And then he ended it with what you're talking about with Iran, and because of and basically without saying it, you could tell he was talking directly to Biden, even though that Biden with his new policies now are going to give sanctions and and let Iran do the nuclear deal again. He is not giving up, and he says he's not putting Israel's security in anybody else's hands, not even America's.
Amen.
He will always, as long as he's prime minister, of course this is also a little bit of campaigning involved here, but as long as he's prime minister, he will always have a very strong hand military-wise against Iran.
It's amazing. It's amazing. A little change of subject. The Bible talks about a false peace before the big tribulation period, right?
Right.
Well, what we're seeing right now is just so easy for me to see. So I'm going to say it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this, because it looks to me like Israel has got now 4 or 5 countries, Arab countries in the Middle East here, making peace with us, or making peace treaties, or some kind of an agreement for normalizing relations. They have all different kind of names for it now, but it adds up to me. If you understand anything about Islam, you know they're never going to stop wanting to kill the Jews.
Of course.
I mean, if you know, so it's just like a false peace coming up. In the meantime, we're seeing all the things line up for Armageddon. We're seeing them line up everywhere you look. It's really sad. So and in the meantime, Hezbollah and Hamas and Islamic Jihad are all lined up all the way around us. Almost on a daily basis now, Israel is having to bomb air raids in Syria, where Iran is building missile bases and everything else to get right on our northern border. And sooner or later, they're going to start firing back. And now Hezbollah is talking about they want to make a sort of a, this is insane what I'm getting ready to tell you. They want to make sort of an agreement like Hamas has. We'll send you a few missiles, you send us a few missiles. And then we'll wait a little while, we'll get the people settled down, then we'll do it again. We'll send you a few missiles and you send us sort of a regulated type of a war, if you want to call it that. Well, Israel says they're not going to go for that. What Israel's saying in Lebanon right now, because Hezbollah is part of your government and in your government and running it, now it is the government. So now when Hezbollah attacks Israel, it's all Lebanon.
It's the country.
The country is attacked in Israel. It's not like the previous things.
Hamas, yeah.
We're getting ready to see, and I feel so sorry for the people in Lebanon. I mean, there's some really good people up there. Of course, they're just like most people in America and other places. Their minds have been persuaded by what we now call the fake news, controlled by Democrats in America. But they're still good people. They just been brainwashed.
I agree with that.
I remember in the 70s and the 80s around here, we used to see Lebanese cars driving around in Israel with the license tag from Lebanon. And they come across the border several different places.
We've had lots of, especially southern Lebanon, when we used to have a military presence there. We had really good relationships with the Lebanese people. The people, not the terrorists that are there, the people. Always had good relationships. Yeah.
Of course, that really changed in 1982. I was a soldier in the IDF in 1982. I know about that. Yeah. But things changed with the war with Lebanon.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, now going into a little bit of politics, Benny Gantz is suing. He's suing people in his own party because they signed a petition behind his back and then presented him with it where they wanted him to step down.
What makes it really bad is that I read, I don't know how many it was, a dozen or more.
High-ranking generals.
Very high. The highest-ranking generals are asking him to step down. Yep. They don't want him to be the prime minister. They don't want him in the race at all. Just step down. Yeah. And he won't listen to him. You know.
When your own military generals is telling you we don't want you.
Yeah. That's also that's the makings of a coup. If he did become the prime minister, and all these generals all want him out. Yeah. That puts the foundation for suspicion for a coup anyway.
I think I saw a movie like that.
Yeah, it sounds like a movie.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone will make a movie out of this too.
Well, you talked about, I'm going to get off this for a second. You talked about Armageddon. By the way, that's a movie, that's a video I wanted to make for you guys. I called it, Armageddon is actually a place in Israel. I don't know, I'm sure most of you know that. Yep. It comes from the word Har Megiddo, Mount Megiddo, Har Megiddo, Armageddon. And but it will only open up after Passover, so look out for that video. I'll do a video of Armageddon, show you guys where it's all going to go down.
Yeah, we've been there many times, many times. Hadn't been there for a few years though. That's probably changed a lot.
Oh, I'm sure they've done a lot of escalation. Yeah. But one thing is every time before elections, all the right-wing parties always get together a few weeks before the election and they sign this loyalty statement that they will be together no matter what. Right? Like up until now, Bennett's always been a part of that agreement. This time he didn't sign. He didn't sign the agreement to stay with the right wings, like with everyone, like he always did before.
Yeah, and also he wouldn't, the ones that say they will not set in a government with Netanyahu, he wouldn't sign that either.
Yeah. No, he's leaving his options open.
Sure, he's leaving it open, yeah.
But it is the first time he wouldn't sign a loyalty agreement.
Well, there's a real possibility. I wouldn't say he's a favorite to become the prime minister, but there's a real possibility that Bennett could be the next prime minister.
There is a possibility.
Because what happens is when the larger parties that have more seats than he does can't form a government without him, and then the president, Rebelin, says, well, then I'll give Bennett a chance to do it.
Yeah.
And if he can do it, then he can become the prime minister. It's as simple as that. Coalitions are much different from what most of the world are used to dealing with.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, Gideon Sa'ar and Bennett both stated, though, that they will not sit in a coalition with Yair Lapid, which is good.
Yeah.
We want
that. Very good. That's Lapid is, in case for those that don't know, he's left, very left.
Yeah, very left. Well, just last thing that was in the news this week was Bibi's trial. Benjamin Netanyahu, our prime minister, his trial will resume and continue on the 5th of April after the elections.
Yeah.
We'll see. I have a feeling it's going to be like it'll just blow over because there's nothing there. There's no.
Yeah. I mean, you can't. When you want to impeach a guy because he got a box of cigars and 2 bottles of wine, right? Of course, I'm exaggerating in the opposite direction. But,
yes.
Yeah, but basically that's what it is. And already the threats and stuff that was put that they say he done against the news media, if they didn't give him favorable coverage, it's all been debunked. It's all been proven a lie.
Yep.
So,
and also what was been proven a lie, one of the main things that he's going to court for, and it's already been proven by the generals in the Navy, is they said that, Bibi is the one who went to Germany and made this deal for our submarines and made a deal under the table so that he gets all this money in his pocket. Well, the generals have come out and stated that is literally impossible because the generals together in the Navy came together, searched everywhere, all the different submarines, what they need for the specific missions that Israel needs. They went, they ordered them, they orchestrated everything, how they wanted them all set up and everything, and they knew and then they just sent that to BB, and BB said okay and went and paid. So I mean, how can they turn that into? But anyway.
Yeah, they even tried to make criminals out. They try to intimidate leaders.
Yeah.
Something in my mind keeps going back to 1973. You remember in 1973, we had what we call the Yom Kippur War here.
Yeah.
We almost lost that war. It was the worst war we had. Nothing compared to what we think's coming at us now, but it was the worst war we had at that time. But during that time, we was trying to get help. But America was pretty busy with Watergate and a few other terrible things going on. So it was like people were all distracted. All the help that Israel needed, the devil had already got the world all so confused and messed up in 1973 that they wasn't looking at Israel anymore. Well, it seems like just about the same scenario is setting up.
Yeah.
It looks like it's setting up with Ezekiel 38, 5 and 6. It just, which talks about the 5 nations that'll line up with Iran. But we also know the end of that story. We know that God will take care of them in the mountains with fire and brimstone. Right?
Well, okay. Well, that was it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Shabbat Shalom from Israel.
Till next week. Bye-bye.